Hello everyone, it's Jamarl Thomas. Welcome to the Progressive Soapbox. Let me make sure everything is set. I started just without getting that part. This was a video that bothered me, or the video, starting this video bothered me. Back in March 2003, George W. Bush, who was president of the United States at that point, a failing president, decided to invade a country. Now, he did this under the pretext of fighting terrorism, which I have no idea what that means. But, okay, that's not fair. I do know what the idea of fighting terrorism means, but ultimately he ended up creating more terrorists. So in the context of what he wanted to accomplish, he was an utter and complete failure. Now, that said, that president invaded a country, Iraq, to take out Saddam Hussein, who he considered to be a bad guy. Fair enough, he was a bad guy. That part I completely agree with him on. Unequivocal. Saddam Hussein was a horrible, disgusting, repugnant fucking waste of human flesh. Agreed. What does that have to do with the million Iraqis that are no longer on this planet, that's no longer breathing this air in this reality frame? Because George Bush was completely responsible for wiping those people off the face of the earth. The world that we live in now is built by George W. Bush. His invasion into Iraq, his invasion into Afghanistan, supposedly for weapons of mass destruction. Saddam Hussein had nothing to do with Osama bin Laden, the person who hit us on 9/11. Those were Saudis on those planes. There were Iraqis on those planes. Those were Saudis. That had nothing to do with Saddam Hussein. Bob slaps me and I punch some woman who's coming out of the bathroom. This was nonsense on its face, and yet that is what took place. The idea of looking for facts, the idea of being critical of the administration itself was washed away. Everybody needed to be on the same page. The New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN sold that war. Sold that war. And in selling that war, 1 million people no longer are on the face of this earth, not alone the calamity that was caused in the wake of that destruction. George W. Bush ended his disgraced presidency, but was able to walk away, him and Tony Blair. For all intents and purposes, war criminals. Saddam Hussein did not have weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. Saddam Hussein did not have any association with Osama bin Laden. And yet those million Iraqis no longer exist nonetheless. None the same. We've been in a permanent state of war, starting with Bush. Before Bush, but overtly, from the standpoint of what we consider a modern era, George W. Bush. All on the pretext of a lie. It was all on the pretext of a lie. Cherry-picked information for the goal of doing just this, an invasion of a country. Now, to back up from that a moment. Saying that may give detail, or may give what happened, but you can never use those words to fully grasp what it means to have an occupying force in your country, or for that matter, to have a person being the occupying force. Now, what I mean by that is taking out of the mix the calamity that took place in Iraq itself, the toll that it takes on the human being to go and to subjugate another country in this way. It's not the easiest thing in the world to deal with. You have some soldiers who made it out and they're doing perfectly fine. You have others who have mental issues because of the things that they faced and they had to deal with over there. You have other soldiers who didn't make it back at all. And if I'm not mistaken, there were 4,000 of those soldiers that never made it back. That's not counting the number of Brits. I think it was several hundred Brits that didn't make it back. All on a lie. All of this was on a lie. Understand, he lied flagrantly through his teeth. It was cherry-picked information. George Bush had our soldiers leveraging the bravery of our soldiers, the men and women in those uniforms, to torture and to rip people apart in order to get information for a link that didn't exist between Saddam Hussein and bin Laden. Not to mention a repeal of habeas corpus, the mass surveillance. But in this case, I want to be specific to the military because I want to get this point across that there are thousands of human beings that are no longer here because of Bush. There are thousands of soldiers that are mentally not all let together because of Bush. That guy who started all of this is getting an award. Guess what the award is for? Dedication to veterans. I shit you not. This is all a game and it's a scam. None of this is real, folks. This is all... It is impossible to live in a world where George Bush is getting an award for dedication to veterans when he should be in a prison cell. Do you understand what I'm saying here? I hope I'm getting this across in very basic terms that anybody can understand. A person that started a war that got 4,000 of our servicemen killed, that used our servicemen, leveraging the bravery of our servicemen to rip and break other human beings, breaking the law, flagrantly breaking U.S. law to do so, lying us into a war that we didn't need to be in, damaging our human beings, and is now getting an award. And Joe Biden, just so you can see it, is going to be the one to get it to him. Right here. Liberty Medal. 2018 Liberty Medal recipient George W. Bush and Mrs. Laura Bush. The National Constitution Center announced that it will award annual Liberty Medal to George W. Bush and former First Lady Laura Bush for their commitment to veterans. You should be in prison, not getting awards. If you want to get an award in prison for the best belly dancer, fair enough. But not this. This is a disgrace. This spits in the face of each and every person that died in that war that you started. A war of aggression on a sovereign nation. Greatest act of terrorism in our modern age. And you're getting an award. Should be in a prison cell. November 11th, 2018, the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia. God, I hope they shut that place down. I hope you have thousands of people there with signs, pissed off, angry, shutting that place down. Joe Biden, by the way, will be the one giving it. George Carlin used to say, it's a club, big club, and you ain't in it. I don't think it's that big of a club. I think it's a very small club. The other part, you ain't in it, is perfectly true. Joe Biden, Clinton, Bush, all of these people, for the most part, are within the same area, and all of these people are of the same class. And for all intents and purposes, they stick together. So yes, Democrat Joe Biden would give war criminal George Bush an award for veterans and dedication to veterans, forgetting the fact, or not even caring about the fact, that it is him more than anybody else who had the greatest act of terrorism on the premise of a lie for to destroy and destabilize the Middle East. The idea, the very notion that George Bush should get an award for anything to do with veterans spits in the face of the people that died fighting in that war that he started. And yeah, not to mention giving it to Halliburton. Because KBR was essentially the company that these guys... Dick Cheney used to work for Halliburton, or be like a president or something of Halliburton. But the contracts that ended up building all of those bases and everything else, many of the overwhelming majority were no bid contracts to Halliburton. He gave his buddies favors. That's what it boiled down to. And they made a killing. on the back of our veterans. Made a killing on the back of our veterans. Connection is terrible. Yeah, I'm gonna kill this and I'm gonna upload. And for the last few days, it's been terrible. Alright, let me end this. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. I'm going to re-upload this video. I have another copy. I always keep a copy of my vids. So, that's all.